The locker room door slammed shut like a gunshot, echoing off the cold tile walls of Lincoln High. Blood trickled from Alexander's split lip, warm and metallic on his tongue, as he slumped against the benches, the jeers of Daniel's crew still ringing in his ears. "Freak!" Daniel had spat, his quarterback arm cocked back for one more shove, but something in Alexander's wide, tear-streaked eyes had made him freeze, the punch never landing. Alexander wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, smearing red across his knuckles, and stared up at the circle of shadows towering over him. It was Friday after school in Willow Creek, Ohio, a nowhere town where cornfields stretched like endless regrets under a sky bruised purple by early autumn. Lincoln High's football team had just crushed the rival Riverton Raiders, 28-7, and the victory rush always turned these post-game huddles into something feral. But tonight, it wasn't the win that had Daniel's blood boiling. It was the whisper he'd caught earlier in the cafeteria. Alexander Hayes, the skinny junior with the thrift store sweaters and sketchbook always tucked under his arm, drawing boys who looked a little too much like the ones on the team. "Get up, Fairy," Daniel barked, his voice cracking like thunder in the humid air thick with the scent of sweat-soaked jerseys and cheap body spray. At 18, Daniel Whitaker was the golden boy of Willow Creek, 6'2", broad-shouldered, with sun-bleached hair and a smile that could charm the PTA into funding a new stadium. Captain of the Lincoln Lions, homecoming king in waiting, son of the local real estate mogul who owned half the strip malls on Main Street. He was everything Alexander wasn't: loud, untouchable, straight as the goalposts he hurled spirals through every Friday night. Alexander didn't move. His chest heaved, breaths coming in shallow gasps that fogged the air between them. He'd known this was coming since sophomore year, when he'd let slip to his art teacher about the poem he'd written, for a boy, not a girl. The rumor mill ground slow in Willow Creek, but it ground fine. Now, with Daniel's crew, Jake the linebacker, Tyler the wide receiver, and a half-dozen hangers-on, forming a wall of varsity jackets, felt like the end of the world, or the beginning of his personal hell. Daniel stepped closer, his cleats squeaking on the damp floor. Close, Alexander could smell the Gatorade on his breath, see the faint scar above his left eyebrow from last season's championship brawl. "You think you can just prance around here, batting your lashes at the team, writing your little love notes?" He snatched Alexander's sketchbook from the bench where it had fallen, flipping it open with a sneer. Pages fluttered, charcoal sketches of broad backs in motion, eyes that held secrets, hands intertwined in ways that made Daniel's stomach twist. Not with disgust, he told himself, but with the raw edge of something he couldn't name. The crew laughed, a brittle sound that didn't reach their eyes. Jake shifted uncomfortably, glancing at the door as if Coach Harlan might burst in any second with his clipboard and whistle. But Daniel pressed on, fueled by the adrenaline still pumping from the field, by the beer he'd chugged in the parking lot with his dad waiting in the Escalade. He tore a page free, a drawing of two figures embracing under stadium lights, and crumpled it in his fist. "This is my school, Hayes. My team. You don't belong here." Alexander's voice was a whisper, barely audible over the drip of a leaky showerhead. "It was just a drawing, Daniel. It doesn't hurt anyone, but it did." It hurt him every time he caught Daniel's gaze lingering a beat too long in the hallways, or when their shoulders brushed in the crowded chem lab. Alexander had been in love with the idea of Daniel since freshman orientation, when the quarterback had helped him pick up spilled pencils with a grin that lit up the gym like fireworks. Stupid, hopeless love. The kind that bloomed in silence and wilted under scrutiny. Daniel's fist unclenched, the paper drifting to the floor like a fallen leaf. For a split second, his blue eyes softened, flickering with something raw confusion, maybe, or the ghost of recognition. He'd felt it too, those stolen glances in the mirror of the weight room, wondering why his pulse raced when he pictured Alexander's quiet laugh instead of the cheerleaders draped over him at parties. But Willow Creek didn't raise boys like that. It raised winners, straight shooters, the kind who married their high school sweethearts and coached the next generation. Out, Daniel said finally, jerking his chin toward the door. The crew dispersed like smoke, slapping high fives and muttering about tailgating at the quarry. Alexander scrambled to his feet, grabbing his bag with trembling hands, his lip throbbing in time with his heartbeat. As he brushed past Daniel, their arms touched, electric, accidental, and Daniel jerked back as if burned. "Stay away from me," Daniel hissed, but his voice lacked conviction. Alexander paused in the doorway, the cool evening air rushing in like a promise of escape. He didn't look back. Not then. That night, Alexander biked home through the fading light, the wind stinging his face like tears he refused to shed. His house was a squat rancher on the edge of town, the kind with peeling siding and a mailbox that leaned like it was drunk. Mom was working doubles at the diner, Dad long gone to whatever bottle or broad had taken him to Cleveland. Alexander patched his lip with a dab of Neosporin, then curled up in his room with the sketchbook, salvaging the torn page. Under the stadium lights, the two figures stared back at him, faceless, but one with broad shoulders, the other slender and watchful. He added details in pencil, a scar above an eyebrow, a lip curved in defiance. Across town, in a colonial on Willow Lane lined with American flags and manicured lawns, Daniel showered off the game, the hot water doing nothing to rinse away the knot in his gut. He replayed the locker room in his mind, the way Alexander's eyes had held his, not with hate, but with a quiet plea that mirrored his own buried fears. Sarah, his girlfriend of 6 months, texted about the party. "Can't wait to celebrate. Babe." 2 hearts. He typed back a heart emoji, then deleted it, staring at the fogged mirror until his reflection blurred. The weekend blurred too, bonfires at the quarry, keg stands, Sarah's lips tasting like cherry gloss and obligation. But Sunday morning, in the empty Whitaker kitchen while his parents argued over property taxes in the den, Daniel found himself driving. No destination, just the rumble of his Ford F-150 cutting through the mist-shrouded fields. He ended up at the old covered bridge on County Road 12, the one kids said was haunted by Civil War ghosts. Alexander was there, sketchbook open on the weathered rail, charcoal smudging his fingers as he captured the fog rolling off the creek. Daniel killed the engine, heart slamming like a bass drum. What the hell was he doing? Confronting the kid again? Apologizing? The word tasted foreign, stuck in his throat like gravel. Alexander looked up, startled, his bandaged lip a stark reminder. "Whitaker," he said flatly, closing the book. "Come to finish the job?" "No." Daniel leaned against the truck, arms crossed to hide the shake in his hands. The bridge creaked under a gust of wind, carrying the scent of damp leaves and distant rain. Shit. Haze. About Friday. That was fucked up." Alexander's laugh was bitter, short. "Yeah. It was." He stood, slinging his bag over his shoulder, ready to bolt. But Daniel stepped forward, blocking the path not aggressively, but with a vulnerability that cracked the air between them. Look, I don't know why I did it. The guys were hyped, talking shit about, you know. And he trailed off, rubbing the back of his neck, the gesture boyish and exposed. Alexander searched his face, seeing the cracks in the quarterback's armor, the way his jaw clenched, the flicker of doubt in those blue eyes. You did it because it's easy, Alexander said softly. Because I'm the villain in your story. The gay kid who makes you question everything. Daniel flinched. That's not, isn't it? Alexander's voice rose, the first real fire Daniel had ever heard from him. I've seen you watching me, Daniel. In class, at lunch. Like you're drowning and I'm the only one who notices. But then you push harder, like it'll make the feeling go away. The words hung there, heavy as the fog. Daniel's mouth went dry, the world narrowing to the space between them, 2 feet, maybe less. He could reach out, bridge it with a touch, but the bridge beneath them groaned. A warning. I have a girlfriend, he muttered, the excuse lame even to his ears. Alexander nodded, unsurprised. I know. Everyone does. He stepped around Daniel, their shoulders brushing again, that same spark. This time, neither pulled away immediately. Just leave me alone. Okay, it's safer that way. As Alexander's bike tires crunched on the gravel, Daniel stood frozen, the echo of those words chasing him all the way home. Safer. For who? Monday brought rain, the kind that turned Willow Creek's dirt roads to mud and the school parking lot into a slick hazard zone. Alexander kept his head down, weaving through the halls with headphones blasting the Nationals' melancholy croon. Art class was his sanctuary, third period with Mr. Ellis, the balding hipster who wore ironic bow ties and encouraged authentic expression. Today, the assignment was portraits, raw, unfiltered glimpses of the soul. Alexander chose a stool in the corner, easel angled away from prying eyes. His subject, a blank canvas at first, then lines emerging, strong jaw, tousled hair, eyes that held storms. He lost himself in it, the charcoal whispering secrets onto paper. Across the room, Daniel slouched at a table, borrowing a spot in the elective to dodge PE. He wasn't an artist. His hands were made for gripping leather, not pencils, but boredom and curiosity drew him to peer over shoulders. When he reached Alexander's easel, the breath caught in his throat. It was him. Unmistakably. The scar, the half-smile, even the way his collarbone peeked from a loosened jersey. Hayes, Daniel breathed, too loud. Heads turned. Mr. Ellis glanced up from his stool, eyebrow arched. Alexander's pencil snapped in his grip. It's nothing, he lied, flipping the canvas to hide it. But the damage was done. Whispers rippled like the rain outside. After the bell, Daniel cornered him in the supply closet, the door clicking shut behind them amid towers of paint cans and dusty canvases. The space was cramped, smelling of turpentine and possibility. Why me? Daniel demanded, voice low and urgent. Out of everyone, why draw that? Alexander backed against the shelves, heart hammering. Because I see you. The real you, not the asshole in the locker room. His eyes, green and fierce, locked on Daniel's. The air thickened, charged like the storm beyond the window. Daniel closed the gap, one hand bracing the wall beside Alexander's head. "And what do you see?" It was a challenge, a plea. "Someone scared," Alexander whispered. "Someone who could be more." Their breaths mingled, inches apart. Daniel's free hand hovered near Alexander's cheek, thumb brushing the edge of the bandage. Time stretched, taut as a bowstring. Then, the door rattled. Jake's voice from the hall. "Whitaker? Coach wants you for film review." Daniel dropped his hand, stepping back as if slapped. "This doesn't change anything," he said, but his eyes said otherwise. Alexander nodded, swallowing the ache. It did change everything. The weeks that followed were a tightrope walk over an abyss. Daniel's bullying stopped. No more shoves in the halls, no locker room taunts. Instead, there were notes slipped into Alexander's sketchbook. "Meet me at the bridge after practice?" Stolen moments under the covered span. Talking about everything and nothing. Daniel's pressure to commit to Ohio State on a full ride. Alexander's dream of art school in New York. Far from Willow Creek's judgmental gaze. Laughter came easier. Touches lingered longer. A hand on a knee during a shared blanket picnic. Fingers intertwining as they watched fireflies dance over the creek. One humid August evening, as cicadas hummed their symphony, Daniel kissed him. It was clumsy, desperate, teeth clacking, noses bumping, but it ignited something profound. Alexander tasted salt and stardust. Daniel's hands framing his face like he was something precious. They broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed together. "This is crazy," Daniel murmured, but he pulled Alexander closer, their bodies fitting like puzzle pieces long separated. "I don't care," Alexander replied, and in that moment, it was true. But Willow Creek had eyes everywhere. Sarah noticed Daniel's distance first, the canceled dates, the vague excuses about team stuff. Jake caught a glance in the weight room that lasted too long. Rumors simmered, then boiled over at the homecoming bonfire. A blurry photo on Snapchat, Daniel and Alexander too close by the flames, heads bent in conversation. The backlash was swift. Daniel's dad grounded him for a week, ranting about distractions and legacy. Coach Harlan pulled him aside, voice gruff with concern. "Son, focus on the field. Girls like Sarah keep things simple." Alexander faced worse. Slurs scrawled on his locker, anonymous texts calling him a predator. But through it all, their secret held, fragile as spun glass. Until the night of the championship game. The stadium lights blazed like false suns over Memorial Field, casting the gridiron in stark relief against the November chill. Lincoln High versus Central Bucks, a rivalry etched in blood and bruises since the 70s. The stands thrummed with 2,000 souls, cheerleaders in red and gold pom-poms, dads with coolers of Bud Light, moms clutching thermoses of hot chocolate. Alexander sat in the bleachers' nosebleed section, sketchbook forgotten on his lap, pencil tracing idle loops as he watched Daniel command the huddle. Down on the turf, Daniel was electric, snapping the ball, dodging tackles with a grace that bordered on poetry. Touchdown after touchdown, he glanced up to the stands, finding Alexander's green eyes like a beacon. It was their ritual now, these silent anchors amid the chaos. But tonight, the air crackled with more than game tension. Sarah sat 2 rows below, her friends whispering, shooting glares Alexander pretended not to notice. Halftime score, Lions 21, Bucks 14. As the band marched onto the field with a brassy rendition of Sweet Caroline, Daniel jogged to the sidelines, helmet tucked under his arm. Coach Harlan clapped his shoulder, but Daniel's eyes scanned the crowd. There, Alexander, bundled in a Lion's hoodie 2 sizes too big, Daniel's, borrowed from a bridge rendezvous. A nod, subtle as a heartbeat, and Daniel's tension eased. In the locker room, the pep talk was fire and brimstone. "This is our house," Harlan bellowed, veins bulging in his neck. "Whitaker, you lead 'em out there. Show these bucks what Willow Creek's made of." The team roared, slamming fists on lockers, but Daniel felt detached, the roar muffled by the roar in his chest. Jake sidled up as they filed out, voice low, "Dude, what's with the stares at the fag in the cheap seats? You going soft on us?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "Shut it, Jake. Focus on the blitz." But the seed was planted, doubt worming its way in like frost through cracks. The second half was a slaughter, Lions up 35-21 with 3 minutes left. Daniel sealed it with a 40-yard bomb to Tyler, the crowd erupting as he spiked the ball in the end zone. Victory horns blared. Confetti rained from the press box. As the team piled on in a dogpile of glee, Daniel stole another look, Alexander clapping, a genuine smile breaking through the shadows on his face. Post-game, the field became a carnival. Kids chasing deflated footballs, alumni slapping backs, the air thick with grill smoke and victory sweat. Daniel found Alexander by the chain-link fence, away from the throng. "We did it," he said, pulling him into a bear hug that smelled of grass and triumph. Alexander laughed into his shoulder. "You did it. You're unstoppable out there. Not without my good luck charm." Daniel's lips brushed Alexander's ear. Promise for later. But Sarah appeared then, materializing like a specter in sequin jeans and a cropped Lion's tee. "Babe, oh my God. That pass." She launched herself at him, planting a kiss on his cheek that lingered too long. Daniel stiffened, extricating gently. "Hey, Sarah. Great game, right?" Alexander faded back, the sketchbook a shield against the ache. She looped her arm through Daniel's, oblivious or willfully blind. "Party at my place? Dad's out of town. Pool's heated. And I got that playlist you like." Her eyes flicked to Alexander, narrowing. "Oh, hey. Alex, right? You sticking around?" Alexander forced a smile. "Nah. Got homework." "Congrats again, Daniel." He turned away, the fence rattling under his grip as he walked to his bike. Daniel watched him go, Sarah's chatter a distant buzz. "Give me a sec," he told her, jogging after. He caught Alexander at the parking lot's edge, under the sodium glow of a street lamp. "Wait. Don't go like that." "Like what?" Alexander's voice was even, but his eyes betrayed the hurt. "Your girlfriend's waiting. Go celebrate." Daniel glanced back, Sarah waving from her convertible, Jake and Tyler piling in with coolers. The weight of eyes pressed in. "It's not. I mean, come to the party. Just for a bit. We can sneak out later. Hit the bridge." Alexander shook his head, rain from an earlier drizzle beating on his lashes. "I'm tired of hiding, Daniel. Of being the dirty secret while you play king of the hill." He mounted his bike, pedals clicking. "Figure out what you want. Really want." The words landed like a sack from behind, knocking the air from Daniel's lungs. He stood there as Alexander pedaled into the night, taillights fading like dying embers. Sarah honked, impatient. Coming? She called. Yeah, he lied, climbing into the truck instead. The party raged without him, kegs tapped, bass thumping from subwoofers, bodies grinding in the Whitaker's cavernous basement. Daniel nursed a solo cup of flat beer, Sarah draped over him like a trophy. But his mind was on the bridge, on green eyes and charcoal kisses. Jake cornered him by the pool table, cue in hand. Spill it, man. That photo from homecoming? You and Hayes? People are talking. Daniel chalked his cue, avoiding Jake's gaze. It's nothing. Just talking art or whatever. Kid's harmless. Harmless, Jake snorted, sinking a stripe. Word is he's trying to turn you. Coach heard, pulled me aside today. Said if the team's distracted, starters sit. The cue snapped against the ball, scattering solids like accusations. Daniel's vision tunneled. That's bullshit. We're winning, aren't we? Jake leaned in, breath sour with whiskey. Winning doesn't mean shit if the town's whispering you're one of them. Dad's on the school board, says it'll tank your scholarship if it sticks. Daniel pocketed the 8-ball too hard, the table shuddering. Scholarship. Ohio State. The life his father had mapped out since Pee Wee League. Pro Scouts. Endorsement deals. Whitaker legacy intact. All teetering on a rumor, on a boy with a sketchbook who made him feel alive for the first time. He ditched the party early, telling Sarah he had a headache. She pouted but let him go, texting love you with a string of hearts. The bridge was empty when he arrived, the creek murmuring secrets to the moon. Alexander wasn't there. Daniel waited an hour, then 2, the cold seeping into his bones. When his phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Saw you with Sarah. Guess that's your answer. It shattered him. The fallout came swift as a Buckeye blitz. Tuesday's practice was hell. Coach Harlan riding Daniel harder than usual, sprints until his legs burned like betrayal. Eyes on the prize. Whitaker. Distractions lose games and championships. In the halls, whispers followed like shadows. Whitaker's queer. No way. Sarah clung tighter, her affection a noose disguised as a necklace. Alexander avoided him entirely, head down, routes rerouted through back stairs. But in art class, Mr. Ellis announced a group project. Partner portraits. Due end of week. The draw was random, slips from a hat. When Daniel's hand emerged with Hayes, the room went still. Switch, Daniel asked, voice steady but eyes pleading. Mr. Ellis shook his head. Fate, Whitaker. Embrace it. After school, they met in the art room, door ajar to stave off gossip. Alexander set up his easel wordlessly, charcoal at the ready. Daniel posed on a stool, jersey unbuttoned against the radiator's heat. Silence stretched, broken only by the scratch of graphite. Why'd you do it? Alexander finally asked, not looking up. The text. After everything. Daniel shifted, the stool creaking. I didn't. Swear. Must have been Jake or someone saw us at the bonfire, put 2 and 2 together. Alexander's hand paused, a shadow falling across the canvas. Doesn't matter. World's closing in. Daniel. Your world's. Anyway, it's ours, Daniel insisted, sliding off the stool to stand behind him. He peered at the emerging portrait, himself, but softer, vulnerable, the quarterback's mask stripped away. This. It's real. Scarier than any game, but real. Alexander set the charcoal down, turning. Their knees brushed under the table. Real gets you benched. Or worse. My mom's already asking questions, diner talk spreading. And you? Your dad's got the whole town in his pocket. Daniel cupped Alexander's face, thumb tracing the healed scar from that first night. Then we fight. Or we run. After graduation, New York with you, or Columbus, doesn't matter. Just don't quit on me. The kiss was inevitable, slow and searing, hands mapping familiar territories with renewed hunger. Alexander's fingers tangled in Daniel's hair, pulling him closer until the easel tipped, canvases clattering like applause. They broke apart breathless, foreheads touching. Okay, Alexander whispered. But no more hiding. Not from them. Daniel nodded, resolve hardening like drying paint. Deal. They worked late into the dusk. Portraits taking shape. Daniel's fierce and tender. Alexander's quiet and unyielding. Laughter crept in. Daniel smudging charcoal on his nose. Alexander teasing his model pose like a Greek statue gone rogue. For those hours, the world outside faded. Willow Creek's judgments reduced to distant thunder. But thunder rolls in. Friday's game against Hamilton High was a grudge match. Last year's loss still a fresh wound. Daniel played like a man possessed. Every snap a defiance. Every huddle glance to the stands a vow. Alexander cheered louder. Sketchbook abandoned. His presence a talisman. Lions won 42-17. The crowd a sea of red waving pom-poms. The after-party was at the quarry. Bonfires dotting the pit like fallen stars. Trucks circling with headlights cutting the dark. Daniel and Alexander arrived separately, him with the team, him on his bike chained to a tree. They met by the water's edge, away from the kegger chaos, sharing a blanket and a thermos of spiked cocoa. Here's to us, Daniel toasted, clinking an imaginary glass. Alexander leaned into him, head on his shoulder, the firelight dancing on the waves. To not giving a damn, but damnation came knocking. Jake stumbled over, red-eyed and slurring, a six-pack dangling from one hand. Whitaker, where's the fire? Oh, and company. His gaze raked Alexander, lip curling. This the inspiration for your little art project? Coach was right, Distraction City. Daniel stood, shielding Alexander. Back off, Jake. You're wasted. Jake laughed. Ugly bark. Wasted? Nah, just honest. Saw you two in the art room, kissing like some rom-com fags. He mimed air quotes, the word landing like a slap. Heads turned from nearby fires, whispers igniting. Alexander rose, chin lifted. Say it again, Jake. To my face. Jake squared up, towering. FAG. Happy? Whole team's laughing behind your back. Whitaker. Sarah's crying to her dad. Says you're cheating with this. Daniel's fist clenched, but Alexander grabbed his arm. Don't. He's baiting. Too late. Jake shoved Daniel. Hard, brotherly roughhousing gone feral. Daniel shoved back, and the scuffle erupted. Punches thrown, grunts echoing off the quarry walls. Alexander yelled for them to stop, but the crowd surged. Phones out, capturing the brawl in shaky video. Coach Harlan arrived 10 minutes later, siren wailing summoned by a frantic parent. He waded in, pulling Jake off Daniel, who sported a blackening eye and split knuckle. "What the hell is this?" he roared. Jake pointed, accusatory. "Ask your star. He's too busy screwing the queer kid to lead." The word detonated. Silence. Then chaos, gasps, curses. Sarah's convertible peeling out in a spray of gravel. Alexander stood frozen, the blanket at his feet like a discarded flag of surrender. Harlan's face drained of color. "Whitaker. My office. Now." He turned to Alexander, voice softening fractionally. "You too, son. This ends tonight." The drive to school was a funeral procession. Daniel in the cop car with Harlan, Alexander following on his bike. Rain starting to spit from low clouds. The principal's office glowed like an interrogation room, fluorescent buzz underscoring the gravity. Mrs. Hargrove, the principal, a stern woman with a perm like steel wool, sat behind her desk, flanked by Harlan. Jake's parents arrived minutes later, blustering about lawsuits and moral decay. Sarah's dad, a portly lawyer, stormed in next, demanding answers. Daniel sat ramrod straight, ice pack pressed to his eye. Alexander, beside him, trembled faintly, hand brushing Daniel's under the table, a lifeline. "Start talking," Hargrove said, eyes boring into Daniel. "And don't spare details." He didn't. The words tumbled out in a rush. The bullying, the bridge talks, the kisses, the love that had bloomed despite the thorns. "It's not a distraction," he finished, voice raw. "It's who I am." With him, gasps rippled. Jake's mom clutched her pearls. Sarah's dad sputtered about indoctrination, but Alexander squeezed Daniel's hand, his own voice steady when he spoke. "He protected me when no one else would." Harlan rubbed his temples, the coach's bluster deflated. "Son, I pushed you to focus because I care. But this, it's bigger than football." Hargrove steepled her fingers. "We'll investigate bullying claims, assault. But Willow Creek's small. This hits the paper tomorrow. It'll tear us apart." Daniel met her gaze. "Maybe it should. Maybe it's time." The meeting dragged, statements taken. Parents called. Alexander's mom arrived last. Apron still dusted with flour from the diner. Eyes wide but arms open when she hugged him. "Oh, baby. Whatever this is, we'll face it." Dawn crept in as they dispersed, the rain a steady drum on the windows. Daniel walked Alexander to his bike, the parking lot a ghost town. "I'm sorry," he said, voice cracking, "for dragging you into this." Alexander cupped his bruised jaw. "You didn't drag. I jumped." Their kiss was soft, defiant, a seal against the storm. But storms break things open. Monday's edition of the Willow Creek Gazette hit doorsteps like a thunderclap. Lincoln High quarterback in altercation over relationship with male student. No names, privacy laws, Hargrove cited, but the town knew. By first period, the halls buzzed with it, cliques fracturing, teachers murmuring in the lounge, the flagpole drawing a cluster of protesters with signs reading "Protect our kids" and "Love is love." Alexander arrived early, backpack heavy with unread texts from cousins in Cleveland. "You okay?" Saw the article. His locker was clean, no slurs, just a single red rose taped to the door. Stem thorny, note attached, "For the thorns we bear. D." He smiled, a fragile bloom in the fluorescent glare. Daniel was late, summoned to Hargrove's office for containment. When he finally slipped into Chem Lab, his eye a purple crescent. The class went quiet. Mr. Patel, oblivious or indifferent, droned on about stoichiometry, but eyes darted, curious, condemning, compassionate in flickers. At lunch, they claimed the corner table in the CAF, a neutral zone amid the chaos. Trays clattered, but conversation flowed. Dreams of escape, playlists for road trips, the absurdity of prom tuxes in a town this small. "We'll go," Daniel said, spearing a tater tot. "You in a suit, me in that vest you sketched. Dance like no one's filming." Alexander laughed, the sound light despite the stares. "Deal. But you lead, quarterbacks gotta call the plays." Jake avoided them, head down in the lunch line, his starter spot benched pending investigation. Sarah had transferred to online classes, her Instagram gone private, stories deleted. Whispers said her dad was suing the school for emotional distress. After school, the art room became their bunker. Mr. Ellis locked the door, brewing tea from a hot plate like a wartime ritual. "Art's rebellion. Boys," he said, handing over mugs. "Paint your truth. The rest will follow." They did. Dual canvases, side by side. Daniel's was abstract, swirls of red and gold crashing into blues and greens, chaos yielding to harmony. Alexander's, their portraits intertwined, faces half-shadowed but hands clasped in light. Hours melted, the sun dipping low, painting the room in amber. Outside, Willow Creek simmered. Reverend Phelps from First Baptist preached a fire and brimstone sermon that packed the pews. "Sodom's shadows creep into our schools. We must stand firm." His flock, half the town, including Jake's parents, marched on City Hall, demanding Hargrove's resignation and curriculum audits for grooming. Daniel's dad, Harlan Whitaker, was apoplectic. Over dinner that night, steak and potatoes, the family china rattling under his fist, he slammed his napkin down. "This is insanity. Daniel, throwing away your future for what? A phase? Some kid's sob story." Daniel pushed peas around his plate, appetite gone. Mom hovered, silent as always, her bridge club gossip now a minefield. "It's not a phase, Dad. It's me. Alexander, he sees me, not the jersey." Harlan's face mottled red. "Sees you? He's ruining you." Scholarship committee called. Ohio State's reconsidering. And the scouts? Poof. Gone. He leaned in, voice dropping to a venomous hiss. "I built this town, son. Don't make me burn it down to save you from yourself." Daniel shoved back from the table, chair scraping like a scream. "Save me? You're the one scared." He stormed out, truck keys snatched from the hook, engine roaring as he peeled toward the bridge. Alexander was waiting, sketchpad open to a new page. The Whitaker Colonial, flames licking the eaves, not literal fire, but symbolic, catharsis in graphite. "Rough night?" he asked, patting the rail. Daniel collapsed beside him, head in hands. "Dad's threatening everything. Pull strings. Tank the investigation. Ship me to military camp if I don't straighten up." He air-quoted bitterly. "Like I'm a bent nail." Alexander set the pad aside, pulling him close. The creek babbled below, indifferent. "Then we leave now. My cousin in Cleveland, he's got a couch. Says art school's their scout talent." Daniel lifted his head, eyes searching. "And football? The team. Screw the team. You're more than a spiral thrower. Alexander's fingers traced Daniel's knuckles, bruised from the quarry. You're the guy who tore my sketchbook and then kissed me under fireflies. That's the legacy. They stayed until stars pricked the sky, plans hatching like fireflies. Bus tickets, part-time gigs, additions for Alexander, pickup games for Daniel. Hope, fragile but fierce. Tuesday brought escalation. Hargrove called an assembly mandatory, metal detectors at the doors for safety. The gym echoed with sneakers squeaking on polished wood. 800 students crammed onto bleachers under banners proclaiming lions roar together. Hargrove took the mic, her voice amplified and unsteady. Folks, we've had challenges. But Lincoln High stands for respect. For every lion, no matter who they love. Boos from the back. Cheers from pockets near the art kids. She introduced a guest, Ms. Rivera from the State Equality Board, a no-nonsense Latina in a power suit. Bullying isn't banter, Rivera said. Projector clicking to stats, suicide rates, dropout spikes in queer youth. It's a crisis. And Willow Creek, you're at a crossroads. Daniel and Alexander sat front row, hands linked under the bleacher slats. Jake slouched in the nosebleed, arms crossed, his parents flanking like sentinels. Coach Harlan stood by the exit, face a mask. Then, the hammer. Hargrove announced suspensions, Jake for the assault, 2 others for prior incidents. And counseling. Mandatory. For all involved. The gym erupted, fists pumping from allies, shouts from detractors. As kids filed out, a freshman slipped Daniel a note, "You're brave." Thanks. But outside, reality bit. Tires slashed on Daniel's truck. Fag lover keyed into the hood. He didn't tell Alexander, biking to the bridge instead. It's fine, he lied when pressed. Just kids being dumb. Alexander wasn't buying. We're in this, Daniel. All of it. That night, the Whitakers' home became a war zone. Harlan's calls to board members yielded fruit. An emergency meeting, whispers of policy changes, dress codes for modesty, chaplains in schools. Daniel overheard from the stairs, Mom's voice rising in rare defense. He's our son, Harlan, not a campaign ad. Dad's reply, our son? Or that boy's puppet? Daniel packed a duffel jersey, cleats, the sketch Alexander had gifted him. He texted Bridge. Now, can't breathe here. Alexander arrived on foot, rain jacket slick. Running, surviving. Daniel tossed the bag into the truck bed. Come with. Tonight. Alexander hesitated, glancing back toward town lights twinkling like accusations. Mom. She'll worry. Call her from the road. Tell her we're safe. Daniel's plea hung. 1 beat. 2. Then Alexander nodded, climbing in. Okay. Cleveland it is. They drove into the downpour, wipers slashing like metronomes, radio tuned to static-laced indie rock. Willow Creek shrank in the rearview, a pinprick of prejudice. Laughter bubbled up, manic, stories of cafeteria disasters, dreams of lofts in Greenwich Village. But at the county line, blue lights flashed. State trooper, radar gun idle. Daniel pulled over, heart jackhammering. License and registration, the officer drawled, flashlight piercing the cab. Alexander shrank into the seat, hood up. Daniel handed over papers, Voice steady. Just heading to my uncle's in Columbus. Game film. The cop's beam lingered on Alexander. Curfew's 11 for minors. Who's this? Cousin. Daniel lied smoothly. Visiting. A nod. Papers returned. Drive safe. Roads are slick. Relief flooded as they merged onto I-71, but the close call lingered like exhaust. That could have gone south, Alexander murmured. Yeah. Daniel's grip tightened on the wheel. But it didn't. Dawn found them in a Columbus diner. Neon eat sign buzzing over greasy eggs and bottomless coffee. Alexander sketched the waitress, a tired beauty with tattoos peeking from cuffs, while Daniel scrolled athletic forums on his phone. Club leagues, walk-on tryouts. Hope. Tentative. A call shattered it. Mom. Voice trembling. Daniel? Where are you? Your father's. He's called the police. Said you're a runaway. Endangered. Daniel's fork clattered. What? We're fine. Endangered by him. The word dripped venom. Harlan's echo. Come home. We can fix this. Therapy. Prayer groups. Just leave the boy. Alexander's pencil stilled, face paling. Daniel hung up, slamming the booth. He thinks you're poisoning me. Then let him. Alexander's eyes blazed. We're poison? Or just different? Different. The word fueled them through the day. Bus to Cleveland. Cousin Marco's apartment, a chaotic haven of vinyl records and half-finished canvases. Marco, a tattooed barista with a history degree and zero fucks, hugged them both. Couch is yours. No judgments. That night, tangled in borrowed sheets, Daniel whispered fears into Alexander's hair. What if Dad's right? What if I can't hack it without the structure, the team, the plan? Alexander traced his scar. You don't need a plan. You need this. Their lovemaking was slow, reverent, a reclaiming amid uncertainty. Weeks blurred into survival. Daniel washing dishes at a brewpub, pickup games in rusted parks where queer leagues welcomed him with open arms. Alexander waitlisted at community college. Gigs illustrating zines for local bands. Letters arrived, Hargrove's, offering reinstatement and support. Jake's, scrawled apology, I was wrong. Sorry. Even Sarah texted, I get it now. Be happy. But Harlan's shadow loomed. Private investigators. Concerned calls to Marco. One night, a knock at 2 a.m. 2 cops. Harlan's doing. Welfare check, they claimed, but I scanned for contraband, for proof of corruption. Marco sent them packing, but the strain showed. Daniel's throws faltered in games. Alexander's sketches darkened, thorns overtaking roses. The breaking point came mid-December, snow blanketing Cleveland in hush. Daniel's phone rang during a shift. Dad. Voice uncharacteristically soft. Come home, son. For Christmas. Alone. We miss you. Daniel stared at the bar's misted window. Reflection fractured. Miss me? Or the version you built? A pause. Heavy. Both. But therapy. Real help. For you. Not him. The him gutted. Daniel hung up, walking out into the flurry, boots crunching to the lakefront. Alexander found him there, bundled against the gale. What did he say? Same old. Daniel's breath fogged. Come home. Leave you. Alexander's face crumpled, but resolve hardened it. Then go. If it's what you need. No. Daniel pulled him close, wind whipping. I need you. But maybe a truce. Talk, not fight. They drove back to Willow Creek under truce flags. Separate rooms at Marco's insistence, but hands linked over the console. The town was a winter postcard. Icicles on the bridge, lights strung on Maine. Harlan waited on the porch, un-Harlan-like in a sweater, no bluster. The dinner was awkward ballet. Mom's turkey dry, conversation mined. Harlan cleared his throat over pie. I've been reading. Groups online. Parents like us. He slid a pamphlet across. PFLAG. Rainbow logo bold. Not saying I get it. But I'm trying. Daniel's throat tightened. For real. A nod. For you. Alexander waited at the bridge, snow dusting his beanie. Daniel arrived, pamphlet in hand. He's trying. So are we. Alexander's kiss melted the chill. But Willow Creek's heart was stubborn. Reverend Phelps rallied a boycott. Sponsors pulling from Lions games. Petitions for traditional values. Coach Harlan resigned, citing family priorities. His own son the unintended casualty. The community shock peaked at the January school board meeting. Town hall packed to rafters. Hargrove presented data. Bullying down 40%. Enrollment up with transfers from progressive districts. Rivera spoke again. Voice steel. Change isn't erosion. It's evolution. Then Daniel stood. Alexander beside him. I bullied him, he confessed, voice carrying. Because I was scared. Of this. He held up their joined hands. But love? It doesn't bully. It builds. Gasps. Applause split down aisles. Jake rose next, halting. I was the bully too. Daniel's right. Sorry, Alex. The tide shifted. Inch by inch. Phelps's flock thinning. Rainbow stickers on lockers. A GSA club chartered. Yet betrayal lurked. February's chill brought Sarah's dad. A leaked video from the quarry. Twisted narrative. Assault on Christian youth by gay agenda. Lawsuit filed. Headlines screaming school cover-up in Willow Creek scandal. Daniel's scholarship evaporated. Scouts ghosting. Harlan's business tanked. Clients fleeing the gay sympathizer. Rage boiled. This is his fault, Harlan muttered one night. Eyes on Alexander's photo in the paper. The fracture came at a family dinner. Tension snapping like wishbones. You chose him over us. Harlan exploded. Fork clattering. I chose me, Daniel shot back. And you chose hate, he stormed out. To Alexander's, only to find the house dark. A note. Gone to New York early. Audition. Love you. Forgive me. No goodbye. Just absence. Betrayal's knife twisted deep. Daniel drove through the night. Snow-slick roads mirroring his blur. New York loomed. Skyline a jagged promise. The Greyhound rattled into Port Authority like a tin can on rails. Exhaust fumes mingling with the crush of Times Square's neon assault. Daniel stepped off at dawn. Duffel slung over one shoulder. The city's pulse slamming against his small-town skin honks. Shouts in a dozen tongues. Steam rising from grates like urban ghosts. Willow Creek felt a lifetime away. Its scandals shriveled to headlines on his phone. Lawsuit dropped in Ohio gay bullying case. Settlement reached. But the victory tasted ash. Alexander had vanished into this maze without a map. He crashed at a youth hostel in Chelsea. Bunk narrow as a coffin. Walls papered with graffiti from wanderers past. Days blurred into hustles. Barista gigs in Hell's Kitchen, where drag queens tipped in glitter-dusted bills. Pickup scrimmages in Riverside Park, where diverse teams welcomed his arm without questions. Nights, he scoured the city art supply shops in Soho, open mics in the Village, flyers for student shows plastered on lampposts. Alexander Hayes, he murmured to baristas, bartenders, buskers. Skinny, green eyes, sketches like poetry, no leads. Weeks stretched to a month. Valentine's Day finding him alone on the High Line, snow dusting the tracks, heart a hollow drum. A text from Mom, Harlan's in counseling. Miss you. Come home? He replied with a heart. But home was a question mark now. Then, serendipity or fate's cruel joke. March's thaw brought gallery crawls to the Lower East Side. Daniel wandered one, free wine loosening his tongue. At a pop-up called Echoes, amid canvases of fractured identities, he froze. Their thorns and spirals, twin portraits intertwined, signatures A. Hayes. The placard read, up-and-coming artist, Columbus native. First solo exhibit next week. His pulse thundered. The curator, a wiry woman with cat-eye glasses, chatted him up. You know the artist? He's the real deal, raw, unflinching. Grew up in some conservative hellhole, channeled it into gold. Daniel's laugh was choked. Yeah. Hellhole's right. He bought a print. The smallest, hands clasped, scars visible, tucking it into his jacket like a talisman. The exhibit was in a warehouse loft. Exposed brick and string lights, hipsters sipping craft IPAs amid the hum of validation. Daniel arrived early, scrubbed clean in his one button-down, nerves jangling like loose change. The space filled, collectors in tailored coats, critics with notepads, a smattering of wide-eyed students. Then, the man himself, Alexander, transformed. Leaner, perhaps, hair longer and artfully tousled, dressed in slim black jeans and a painter's smock over a thermal. He moved through the crowd like he belonged, handshakes, modest smiles, deflecting praise with self-deprecating charm. It's just stories, he said to a buyer eyeing bridge ghosts, the covered span rendered ethereal in mist and memory. Daniel hung back, beer warming in his hand, the print burning against his chest. When Alexander's gaze swept the room, it locked, widening in shock, then softening to something achingly tender. He excused himself, weaving through bodies until they collided in a shadowed alcove, away from the spotlight. You, Alexander breathed, hands hovering as if afraid he'd dissolve. Me, Daniel's voice cracked. Ran all the way from Ohio. Missed you. Alexander's laugh was watery. I left because couldn't watch you choose. Or not. His fingers brushed Daniel's sleeve. Tentative. Audition went great, scholarship to Pratt. But every night, I sketched you. Us. Daniel pulled the print free, holding it between them. Saw this. Knew it was us. He stepped closer, the alcove a bubble amid the chatter. I choose you, Alex. Always did. Dad's in therapy, real shit. Town's changing, slow as molasses, but changing. Tears tracked Alexander's cheeks, smudging coal liner. I love you, the words. Simple, seismic. Their kiss was a homecoming, deep, unhurried, tasting of city grit and small-town sweet. Whistles from nearby broke it, A tipsy artist catcalling. Get a room. Lovebirds. They did. Later. Alexander's tiny walk-up in Bushwick. Canvases stacked like promises. Bed a nest of thrift sheets. Lovemaking rediscovered them. Fiercer. Surer. Bodies mapping scars earned. No more running, Daniel murmured into Alexander's neck, dawn painting them gold. No more hiding, spring unfurled in blossoms and breakthroughs. Daniel enrolled at community college, majoring in sports management with a minor in fine arts, Alexander's influence, sketching sidelines at his rec league games. Harlan visited once, awkward in khakis, bearing a Buckeyes cap and a halting. Proud of you, son. Both of you. Progress. Pixel by pixel. Willow Creek called them back for graduation, Hargrove's invite, laced with hope. They flew coach, hands linked over peanuts, landing in a town greening with tentative grace. The ceremony was subdued. Jake valedictorian, speech laced with empathy's the real win. A rainbow cord for Alexander. Honorary. Post-ceremony picnic at Memorial Field. Blankets spread. Coach Harlan, reinstated, grilling burgers. Reverend Phelps notably absent. His flock halved. A new progressive pastor in the pulpit. Sarah approached shyly, arm linked with a girl from art club. Hey. Water under the bridge. Daniel grinned. Yeah. Congrats on everything. Mom hugged Alexander like a son, whispering, Thank you for my boy. Harlan clapped Daniel's back. Eyes misty. Ohio State's got a spot if you want it. Walk on. No strings. Daniel glanced at Alexander, who nodded. Maybe. But New York's home now. The bridge was their last stop, twilight gilding the rails. They sat shoulder to shoulder, feet dangling over the creek, swollen with spring melt, carrying secrets downstream. Full circle, Alexander said, head on Daniel's shoulder. Daniel kissed his temple. Better ending, but life scripts twists. Summer heatwave hit New York like a fever, internships grinding Daniel to dust, coaching youth camps by day, slinging lattes by night. Alexander's exhibit sold out, commissions flooding, but pressure mounted, deadlines, critics demanding more edge. Cracks showed in August, a fight over Daniel's late shifts, Alexander snapping at a flirty gallery intern. You're drifting, he accused, voice sharp as shattered glass. I'm hustling, Daniel retorted, slamming the door. For us, silence festered, texts unanswered. Daniel crashed at a teammate's, the print of clasped hands mocking from his bag. Regret nod, idiot. Fix it. He showed up at the loft with roses, red, thorny, a nod to their start. Alexander opened the door, eyes red-rimmed, charcoal smudges on his cheek. I sold the bridge painting, he said flatly, to some collector in L.A. Felt like selling us. Daniel dropped to his knees, roses scattering. Don't. I'm sorry. You're not a distraction. You're the drive. He pulled Alexander down. Embrace fierce. We're good. Better than good. Forgiveness came in whispers. Then moans, reaffirmation on the fire escape. City lights winking approval. Fall brought balance. Daniel's tryout invite to a semi-pro league in Brooklyn. Alexander's thesis show at Pratt. Willow Creek faded to holiday cards. Harlan's PFLAG meeting tonight. Jake's college acceptance. But echoes lingered. A call from Hargrove. Voice grave. Phelps is back, stirring old pots. Board vote on GSA funding. Daniel sighed. We started this. Might need to finish. They flew home for Thanksgiving. Town dusted in first snow. The meeting was a powder keg. Phelps thundering about biblical values. Fists pounding podium. But allies rose, Harlan. Surprisingly, sharing his journey. I bullied my own son with silence. Won't let it happen to others. Daniel followed, Alexander at his side. I was the bully once. Paid for it with everything. But love, it redeems. Applause drowned Phelps. Vote passing 5-2. Post-meeting. Beers at the quarry. Ironic toast to the brawl that birthed change. Jake raised his bottle. To prices paid. And worths gained, Alexander added. Back in New York. Winter deepened resolve. Christmas Eve. Daniel proposed, not ring, but promise. A custom jersey. Hayes one stitched on back. Under stadium lights sketched by Alexander. Team of two. Forever. Forever. But humanity's arc bends slow. Spring 2026. News from Willow Creek. Phelps's church splintered. A new community center rising. GSA's first Pride Walk. Daniel and Alexander led the float. Rainbow flags snapping in Ohio breeze. Hands linked for cameras. Yet personal storms brewed. Daniel's knee buckled in a league game. Torn ACL. Surgeon's verdict. 6 months out. Rethink pro dreams. Crutches clacked through the loft. Daniel's mood a thunderhead. Useless, he muttered, tossing cleats. Alexander knelt, unlacing the offending shoe. You're not your leg. You're the heart that threw those passes. He sketched rehab timelines, motivational murals on the fridge, stick figures conquering stairs. Gratitude bloomed in vulnerability. Nights of Alexander reading poetry. Days of shared runs. Daniel's slow jog. Alexander matching. You're my coach now, Daniel admitted, sweat slick and smiling. Graduation neared. Alexander's MFA show. Willow echoes. Canvases chronicling their saga. From locker shadows to bridge lights. Opening night packed the gallery. Harlan flying in. Eyes misting at redemption spiral. Beautiful, son. Both of you. Phelps's shadow resurfaced in a blog post. The fall of Willow Creek. How one boy's whim destroyed a town's soul. Shares spiked. Old wounds reopening. Daniel woke to hate mail. Karma's coming. Fag. He deleted, but doubt crept. What if he's right? We broke it. Alexander pulled him to the window. Skyline sprawling. We mended it. Look, your dad's volunteering at the center. Jake's mentoring freshmen. That's us. Summer solstice. A road trip. Reclaiming roots. They drove the F-150 south. Windows down. Playlist looping the Nationals' ache. Stops at diners. Motels with neon vacancies. Lovemaking lazy. Laughter-free. In Nashville, a queer league tournament. Daniel, cleared, hurling touchdowns to cheers. Alexander sketched from sidelines, capturing glory in motion. As they crested the Appalachians, radio crackled a Willow Creek update. Pride Walk draws record crowd. Former bully turned advocate speaks. Daniel's interview. Voice steady. I paid a price. But the community's richer for it. Alexander squeezed his thigh. Ours too. Autumn leaves carpeted the drive back to New York. The F-150's bed laden with cider jugs and pumpkin pies from Mom's kitchen. Reminders of a town remade. Daniel and Alexander unloaded at the loft. Boxes tumbling amid canvases, the air crisp with change. Daniel's semi-pro contract solidified. Backup QB for the Brooklyn Barons. Salary modest but steady. Alexander's show reviews glowed. A visceral testament to queer resilience. The Times proclaimed, commissions pouring in like rain. But plenty bred peril. December's holiday rush. Daniel's games clashing with Alexander's deadlines. Texts curt. Late again? Gallery dinner solo. Distance yawned. Filled by bar stools and blank pages. New Year's Eve tipped it. Alexander's gala at MoMA. Black tie swirl of patrons and champagne flutes. Daniel arrived late. Knee still tender. Tux rumpled from traffic. Missed the toast, Alexander said. Smile tight under the crystal chandeliers. Sorry. Coach ran drills. Daniel's hand on his waist felt obligatory. They danced, bodies stiff amid the waltz, whispers of inspiration from admirers grating. In the cab home, silence thickened. You're slipping, Alexander said, city lights streaking his face. Slipping, Daniel's hackles rose. I'm grinding for the team, for us. You're the one schmoozing collectors like their saviors. Alexander's laugh was sharp. Saviors? They're buying our life, while you chase ghosts of high school glory. The cab screeched to a halt. Daniel paid, storming up the stairs. Door slammed. Words hurled. You left me once, running to this. Now you judge. I left to breathe, Alexander shouted. Coat flung. Willow Creek choked us. But here, you're choosing the field over. Over what? Us. Daniel's voice broke. Every snaps for a future house. Studio. Ring on your finger. Alexander deflated, sinking to the rug. I want that. But not if it costs you. Costs me. Dawn found them entwined. Apologies murmured into skin. Therapy, Daniel suggested. Like Dad. For teams of two. Alexander nodded, fingers tracing vows on his palm. Winter thawed into tentative bloom. Couples counseling in a village brownstone, DR. Lena, a wry therapist with salt and pepper braids, unpacking lockers of hurt. Bullying's echo, she said. Daniel's drive to prove. Alexander's fear of abandonment. Name it, tame it. Sessions unearthed gold. Daniel admitting quarterback's armor hid abandonment wounds. Dad's absences at games. Alexander confessing art as escape from isolation. Homework. Date nights. No phones. Picnics in Central Park. Sketches of Daniel's rehab scars turned tattoos. Spring's renewal mirrored theirs. Daniel's Barons surged to playoffs. His passes poetry in motion. Alexander in the stands. Charcoal capturing arcs. Harlan visited for opening day. Chest puffed at the kiss cam. That's my boy. Post-win. Father-son beers at a rooftop. You were right, Harlan admitted. Foam mustache twitching. Pushed too hard. But seeing you. Whole? Worth every stumble. Daniel clinked bottles. Love you, Dad. Summer scorched. Alexander's residency in the Catskills. Plein air painting amid wildflowers. Daniel joined weekends. Cleats swapped for hiking boots. Their tent a cocoon under stars. This is the real playbook, he murmured. Alexander's head pillowed on his chest. Back in the city, a package arrived. Willow Creek's time capsule. Unearthed from under the stadium letters from seniors, including theirs, to future Lions, be brave. Love loud. D&A. Hargrove enclosed a note. You changed us. Now claim your legacy. Inspired, they planned. A book, spirals and shadows. Daniel's words. Raw memoir. Alexander's illustrations. Visceral. Agent bites. Deal inked by Labor Day. Fall's harvest. Book tour kickoff in Ohio. Willow Creek the anchor. Town square packed. Banners welcome home heroes. Phelps's old church now a community hub. Reading at the library. Daniel's voice steady on bullying spite. Love's bomb. Alexander's drawings projected, eliciting gasps and nods. Q&A brimmed. Jake, now a teacher, first hand up. You saved me too. From myself. Sarah, with her wife, shared. Your story gave me mine. Harlan emceed, pride swelling his frame. Post-event. Bonfire at the quarry, no kegs, just esmores and songs. Daniel and Alexander slow danced on dirt, flames flickering like memory. Full redemption, Alexander whispered. Paid in full, yet humanity whispers not yet. Winter 2027. Books bestseller buzz. TED Talk invites. But a call from Coach Harlan, old Harlan. Retired but restless. Scouts watching you, son. NFL combine. One shot. Daniel's heart raced. Pro? Now. Alexander's face shadowed over dinner. Go. It's your dream. But us. Dreams hold. Trust. The combine in Indy. Drills under February skies. Daniel's arm a cannon. Knee holding. Scouts nodded. Offers trickled. Backup for the Browns. Cleveland's prodigal. Homecoming decision. Cleveland. 90 miles from Willow but worlds from Bushwick. Closer to family, Daniel pitched. And you, galleries there. Adjunct at CIA. Alexander weighed it. Heart-pulling dual ways. If it's joy, it was. Move in May. Loft to a Victorian in Tremont. Brick walls echoing with laughter. Daniel's camp. Alexander's studio. Balance hard won. But joy's foil. Harlan's diagnosis. Prostate. Early but insistent. Chemo loomed. Daniel's games a blur of worry. Alexander drove the hours. Sketchpad capturing dad's grit. Warrior in waiting. Harlan rallied. Post-treatment barbecues his triumph. You boys, he said. Arm around Alexander. Best plot twist. Spring playoffs. Barons versus Steelers. Daniel's first start. Alexander in the end zone. Harlan beside. Roar as he connected. 60 yards. Victory sealed. Post-game huddle. Family. Chosen and blood. Jerseys swapped like sacraments. Summer wedding. Backyard affair in Willow Creek. Bridge as arch, rainbow bunting. Officiant a PFLAG ally. Vows. Daniel's from bully to beloved. Alexander's shadows to light. Rings exchanged. Thorns engraved inside. Honeymoon in the Keys. Kayaks through mangroves. Sunsets painted in hues only Alexander could capture. This, Daniel said, toes in sand. The real championship. Fall's gift. Alexander's pregnancy announcement. No. Adoption papers for a foster kid. Timmy, 12 and wary. Green eyes like his. Our team grows. Daniel knelt. Timmy's hand in his. Welcome. Champ. Winter Circle. Books sequel. Echoes amplified. Timmy's doodles interspersed. Willow Creek's Pride Walk. 3 generations marching. Harlan carrying the banner. Jake's kids waving flags. Phelps's passing made headlines. Quiet, in hospice, a final blog recanting, I was wrong. Love wins. Redemption's full arc. Years layered. Timmy's sketches rivaling Alexander's. Daniel coaching Pee-wee, no bullies on my field. Harlan's remission party. Toasts to prices paid. Graces given. On the bridge, graying but golden, Daniel and Alexander sat, feet dangling still, creek eternal. Shocked the community, Daniel mused, hand in hand. Alexander leaned in. Shocked ourselves. But look, legacy. Sunset gilded them. Final hook. Not end, but ever after, human and whole.